Hello everyone, welcome back to another GCSE English language video, and today we are looking at question 3 structure. So this question is always the same every single year. So it reads the following. Question 3, you now need to think about the whole of the source. This text is taken from the beginning of a novel. How is the text structured to interest you as a reader? You could write about what the writer focuses your attention on at the beginning, how and why the writer changes this focus as the source develops, and any other structural features that interest you. And the question is worth 8 marks. So this question is often poorly answered by students. So what I wanted to do is to go over the question and show you how to write the ideal answer. Now, first of all, as you know, this question is about the whole of the source. So we need to clearly focus on the entire text. So from the beginning to the middle to the end. How is the text structured? So what does this mean? This means how the text is organized to interest you as a reader. So we are looking at all the ways structure can be used to make it interesting. And you see the bullet points here, they're here to guide you. So do use it when writing your answer. So the first one reads, what the writer focuses your attention on at the beginning. So clearly we need to mention what happens at the beginning and how does that interest the reader. Secondly, how and why, very important, how and why the writer changes this focus as the source develops. So the how is obviously through the structural methods or techniques, and the why, so why does the writer do this? Is it to interest the reader, and is it to show a particular idea, etc.? And finally, any other structural features that interest you. So we have done a video on this previously. So structural features can include things like flashback, flash forwards. You could include dialogue, a shift in focus, a shift in time, etc. So these are some features that often you will find within your insert, within your text. So what we are going to do is we are going to read the source again and pick out all the structural techniques and the relevant quotes for this question. So instantly, if you look at the first line, it begins, Alexander Cold awakened at dawn, startled by a nightmare. So that in itself, I've already annotated, is a clear example of in media res. So as you can see, in media res is a simple but effective structural technique. Now, how is this in media res? It's because it already goes straight into the action. He is having a nightmare, and as the readers, how does it make it interesting? It makes it interesting for us because you start questioning, what is this nightmare about? And why is it interesting? You want to continue reading to find out why he's had a nightmare. Has he had a nightmare about his exams, about a particular event? So we start to question as the readers, and that entirely is the focus in the beginning. And it focuses on clearly his inner thoughts, as I've highlighted here. It focuses on how he's feeling, and remember, as his mother's health has deteriorated, it has clearly affected him. Also, the writer uses symbolism. If you look at the enormous black bird, if you think about the black bird, it symbolizes death. You think about a crow, and often crows are associated with graveyards, etc. So it clearly shows us something is about to happen. And not only that, that is supported by, if you look at line 3, and carried off his mother. So that is a prime example of foreboding. So what is foreboding? And here the foreboding is hinting. And this is an example of foreboding as mentioned, because if the bird is carrying off his mother, this is foreboding how she may possibly die and the bird is going to take her away. So that in itself is to do with structure. He had watched helplessly as it clasped her. So this is focusing on his inner thoughts. And in simple terms, the first initial paragraph, the beginning, is focusing on the nightmare and Alex's reaction to it. And then the focus shifts on the effects of the nightmare. So if you look here on line 10, they say, waiting for the pounding in his chest to die down, he was still tangled in the images of his bad dream. So this shows us the consequences of the nightmare and how he's struggling to deal with it. And then the writer uses chronology, and in fact, the writer uses a linear structure where you write in time order. So it begins by saying, Alexander looked at the clock, 6:30, time to get up. Outside it was beginning to get light. So what's happening here is the writer showing a contrast from the inside to the outside. There had been a lot of days like that since his mother got sick. That's significant because it's highlighting this perpetual struggle that he has to deal with on a regular basis. And chronology is again another structural feature. As you can see, a shift in time. So now it's the early hours of the morning. And the following paragraph, it shifts in the setting. So it goes from his bedroom to breakfast. So as you can see, a shift in setting from bedroom to kitchen. At breakfast, Alex was not in the mood to applaud his father's efforts at making pancakes. So that in itself is an example which you want to consider for question 3. Now from 20 to 25, I've highlighted there's a transition where the writer has used a dialogue, and it represents his inner thoughts are expressed to wider family members. So it really shows us how he's struggling to deal with his mother's health, and now he's lashing out towards his sisters and also towards his father as well. So what quote can you use here? For example, "Shut up, Nicole," Alex replied. Look at how he's expressing his frustration towards his sisters. And then if you look towards the end of that insert of this paragraph, the writer focuses on the family. So how has the family been affected? Now, of course, they are struggling to deal with the mother's illness, but there is a hint of some positive outcomes from this. Although it's ephemeral, although it's short-lived, they did seem to have a party where they were able to have anything they wanted, whatever they pleased, mainly sweets. But they also too acknowledged eventually over time you do get bored of having the same food. So for example, they were having pizza or Chinese food. It shows you the absence of the mother has affected not only their mentally, but also physically. And this is the final paragraph. Now, what has the writer used here in terms of structure? The writer has used a flashback, also known as an analepsis. So he missed her easy laughter and her affection. And this is showing us how he's reminiscing and thinking about the positive memories and the positive experiences with his mother. But then towards the end, it shifts and shows us how the mother is now little more than a silent ghost. And that links to the beginning of the text where he's having a nightmare. There's a crow which grabs the mother and takes her away. And if you think about crows, if you think about ghosts, these are all things that you would see in a graveyard or are related to a graveyard and death. So this is what makes it interesting. Not only is the beginning interesting and effective, but also the ending where the mother is now a silent ghost. And even silent ghost here, you can look at it in multiple angles. The first one could be quite simply that the mother has physically died, so she's no longer there, and now she is a silent ghost. Her presence is no longer felt. Or alternatively, the mother is alive, but because her health has declined, she is a silent ghost. Her presence is no longer felt. So this is something which you can mention for this question. And remember to talk about how it interests the reader. Absolutely crucial. Now moving on to the question, I did want to show you all how I would answer the question. So it goes like the following. The text is organized into 2 parts, which includes Alexander's inner thoughts, a transition to depict his relationship with family members. At the beginning, the writer successfully establishes person, place, and time by focusing our attention on Alexander waking in his bedroom at dawn, startled by a nightmare, before narrowing to the specific details of the dream where a huge black bird carried off his mother. The use of the adjective startled in the first sentence creates an urgent, abrupt opening with a sense of urgency. Additionally, the focus shifts to the nightmare to create an atmosphere of agitation in the reader that is carried over into the second half of the text when Alex interacts with the rest of the family at breakfast. Notice how I've focused on the shifts in focus and how it's interesting for the reader, and I've backed it up with relevant quotes. So this is exactly what you want to do for question 3. No need for you to analyze language, so no need for you to pick out a particular word and look at the connotations, because it's simply to do with structure. Furthermore, our focus then switches to Alex's fearful reaction, and we acknowledge that he feels it's going to be a bad day. The key sentence, "There had been a lot of days like that since his mother got sick," is structurally important because it is the first mention of his mother being ill. It takes us back to the nightmare at the beginning, and we now understand the significance of his mother being ill. It takes us back to the nightmare at the beginning, and we now understand the significance of his mother being ill. So I think here I've just repeated myself. So ignore that. It takes us back to the nightmare, and we now understand the significance of his mother being carried off. The black bird is a symbol of death. In particular, the words "watched helplessly" take on a new meaning for the reader at this point in the text. Possibly the reason Alex feels so bad is that he can do nothing to protect his mother. So that's what makes it interesting, because we as the readers acknowledge that he too is vulnerable, because there's not much that he can do to improve the situation. And finally, the writer uses analepsis to interest the reader. The words "he missed her easy..." Oops, I think I just rubbed it out. The words "he missed her easy laughter and her affection" illustrates how Alex was reminiscing about his positive memories with his mother. This interests the reader as they admire the mother and son relationship. As a result, the writer shifts from the past tense to the present tense and demonstrating how the mother is little more than a silent ghost. This creates the impression that the mother's presence is no longer felt, and this interests the reader as they understand how the mother played a pivotal role in keeping the family united. So what is so good about this answer in simple terms, students, is it has successfully analyzed structure for effect. So I have explained how structure is used to interest the reader. I have used a range of quotations. As you can remember, the question says the whole of the source. So have I provided in-depth exploration of structure? Absolutely. And is it sophisticated and perceptive? Yes. So for that reason, this would be a grade 9 response for question 3. I hope this gives everyone a better understanding of how to approach question 3 for English language structure, as a lot of students do struggle with this question. If you have any questions or confusions, do leave them in the comment section below. Click on the subscribe button to stay up to date with our latest revision videos, and we shall have a question for model answer being uploaded in the next few days. Other than that, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like and share for more.